Hello, this is Cat Martin. I'm hoping that the information in this Getting Started course has given you some interest and enthusiasm in playing the beautiful game of PL08. To finish off, I wanted to give you a preview of the full course that I offer here at Grinder U, called An Introduction to Pot Limit Omaha High-Low 8 or Better. You can tell why we call it PL08, that's quite a mouthful. So this is how it appears on the site, An Introduction to PL08. There is the link. And I wanted to emphasize that I call it an introduction to PL08 because we do start with the rules of the game and how to play it. And pretty much for the first lecture we cover a lot of the stuff that is given in this Getting Started course. But rapidly we get into more complex ideas, and the course is really a comprehensive one that will give you all the skills you need to beat PL08, both cash games and tournaments. So let me explain a little about what the content involves. It's a multimedia approach, so we have video lectures and written lectures that in most cases act as supplements to the video lectures. I also include resources such as links to other useful websites, including things like places where you can calculate hand matchups in Omaha 8. The course does include math, but you don't really need to understand the math to understand the course. I'm something of a math guy, and so I think that math always helps, but you're certainly not going to need to understand the details of how some of these calculations are carried out when we're trying to use the math to figure out optimum plays. It would certainly be okay for you just to say, okay, well, I kind of follow all that, and I'll just do it. Equally, I'm more than happy for people to get involved in the math because I think it's fun. But you don't want to hear about my problems with liking math. Hand examples. Yeah, so this isn't just a theory course. I put a lot of these ideas into practice by giving examples of hands. We actually go through a couple of cash game sessions and a couple of tournaments as well, showing you the key hands and talking about them. I think that the most important element of all of this, though, is the last one here, the discussion area. It's very difficult for me to know ahead of time what you don't understand about PL08 and what you need to know to make you better at it. So one of the key features of the course, and I think one of the nicest elements of Grinder University in general, is that there is a discussion area for this course where you can post questions, where I will be checking in regularly. And if we get, the more students that take this course, the better those discussions will get. And, I'm hoping that pretty rapidly you guys become near experts in this game. That's my ultimate goal. And so we can sort of turn this into a graduate seminar, okay, researching the beautiful game of PL08. Let me give you some content. Okay, so we do start off with the basics, things, and in any Omaha variant, just understanding some of the terminology is the initial speed bump. So we'll start off basically and go over reading the board and talk a bit about the pot limit betting structure as well, because many of you will be coming from a limit background, and that does have a major impact on how the game is played. We'll then go to the fundamental strategy of PL08, and that will allow us to figure out which hands we can play pre-flop, give us some guidelines for starting hands. I'm not just going to give neat little tables and charts, we're going to try to understand why certain hands work in PL08. And one of the central themes is that we're going to find that that we need hands that work in both directions. I realize I'm stretching it a bit with the picture of my Maine Coon cat here, but it's a beautiful picture of a beautiful cat. So the idea of scooping as being fundamental to PL08 and how that impacts the hands we play. Now, even for hardened veterans, it can sometimes be difficult to read the flop, read the board, and figure out not only what your draws are, that's something that you learn fairly rapidly, but assessing the strength of those draws. And so in our discussion of the flop, that will be one of the central themes. And we'll also talk about quartering, which is something that you want to avoid, and the free roll, which is a situation that you want to put yourself in to frequently win 3/4 of the pot, which when we can't scoop is the next best thing. So the rest of the course kind of proceeds in the way you might expect. That's the flop that we've just talked about. We then go on to the turn and the river, obviously. One of the things that I think is most important, well, there are related things actually, of game selection and player profiling, which aren't discussed enough in my opinion in some areas. We will be talking a lot about those two areas along with the turn and river, bunging them all in together. And fundamentally, one of the things you're trying to do, of course, is to identify fish. And once you've identified fish, you can find the games that they are sitting in. All right, but more generally, we're trying to figure out how to play against different player profiles, different player types, and when they are in a game that we like because they're in there, how do we then play against them specifically in that game situation? So both player types and game texture, how do we adapt our games to exploit that to the most? And I mean, some of the stuff applies to all forms of poker, but we'll be talking about issues like if you're up against calling stations, which are players that you like to have at the table, you have to play them correctly, and it's no good bluffing at them. That's just money down the drain. Many of you, it still seems that tournaments are the more popular form of poker than cash games for reasons that I personally don't understand. But I like PL08 tournaments. They're fun. I think that you need to make some adjustments between cash game strategy and tournament strategy, and so we'll devote an entire lecture to those concepts that should really help you crushing the online PL08 tournaments, which are very good, incidentally. Even though I'm not a tournament player, I do enjoy playing PL08 tournaments because they're so soft. This is far from just a theory course. We will be putting these ideas into practice, and I'll do that by Poker X Factor has kindly allowed us to borrow their hand animator, so we'll be looking at animated hands from both tournaments and cash games and illustrating the theoretical ideas from the earlier lectures. So that is about it. I've given the link again here so you can find the course at GrinderU. I very much hope that if this getting started little course here has interested you in this form of poker, that you'll consider taking the full course. But even if you don't, good luck at the tables.